So today we are going to speak on Paramatma in the Bhagavad Geeta. The Bhagavad Puran has a verse which says that God is available to us in three aspects. Vadanti tat tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwan iti shabdyati. That God is available to us in three aspects. He is available to us as Brahman, He is available to us as Paramatma, and He is available to us as Bhagwan. Commentators have pointed out that to understand this, the best allegory is that of the sun. So when you get up in the morning and sunlight has entered your room, you will say the sun has entered my room. Of course, the sun has not entered your room. It's the energy of the sun that has entered your room, which is the sunshine. Similarly, Brahman is not God, but it is the energy of the divine, the spiritual energy of the divine, of which you are a particle. And therefore, you call that God, Brahman. Then you look out of the window, and when you look out of the window, you see, or rather, you look into your room, and in your room, you see a mirror opposite the window. And the mirror opposite the window shows you a reflection of the sun. So when you see the reflection of the sun in the mirror, you say, hey, that's the sun. So just like you said, the sun has entered the room, when actually only sunshine has entered the room, and we call that Brahman. Similarly, when you see the image of the sun in the mirror and we say, hey, that's the sun. Similarly, the yogi looks within his heart, just like the jnani, he realizes Brahman. The yogi realizes Paramatma who is seated within his heart. And he says, yes, this is God. But of course, it's just a reflection of God that is there within your heart as Paramatma. And thirdly, when you look into out of your window and you see the sun in all its glory, you understand it is the source of the sunshine and it is the source of the image in your mirror. And you say, that is the sun. This is the recognition of Bhagavan. And because we cannot see that Bhagavan who is avyakta chintya, that Lord who is beyond the senses, who is beyond your mind and intelligence, one who cannot even be spoken of, who is ineffable. We see Bhagavan in the form of his incarnation. And that supreme incarnation, the Purna Avatar, which is known as Bhagavan Shri Krishna. So the important question is, why do we need different aspects of God? And today I will speak to you about Paramatma. So if Paramatma is the source of God in the heart, why do we need him? We need the Paramatma because we need a constant guide who will tell us what to do in our life. This is very important because people don't understand that from moment to moment, from day to day, you need to check with that Lord who is within your heart. And not only is he within your heart, but he is guiding you onward towards your destiny. I will come to the relevant verses as we go on further, but I just want to tell you that this is why we need Bhagavan, and why we need Paramatma, and why we need Brahman. And the reason why we require Paramatma is that he is our constant companion. He is our constant companion. And he is guiding us towards our destiny. In the Upanishads, in fact, in two of them, it has been pointed out that within your heart there are two birds who are seated there. Dva Suparna Sayuja Sakhaya Samanam Vriksha Parishuswadati. That there are two birds who are seated in the tree. One looks at the fruits of the tree and is trying to eat the fruits of the tree, some of which are sweet, some of which are bitter, and some of which are tasteless. But yet, that bird who is eating the fruits of the tree is never happy and never satisfied until he turns his face towards the bird who is seated on the branch beside him. And then only does he find peace. So, only when that soul turns from the world and the fruits of the world, then this soul which is in your heart, when it turns to its side and it learns or turns within and sees that there is God who is his companion, then by seeing that Lord who is the other bird seated on the branch of the tree, he knows everlasting peace. Ritam pibantau sukritasya loke guyam pravishtav parame pararde chaya tapo brahma vido vadanti panchagnayo yecha nachiketa. This is from the Kathopanishad. And in the Kathopanishad, it is clearly pointed out that within the heart there are two. One which is effulgent and the source of light, which is the Paramatma, and the other which is in shadow, which is a Jivatma. Both of these are watching, tasting the fruits of the tree, the fruits of the world. But until the bird who is seated or the individual who is in shadow turns to the source of light, until then he will not know peace. Indeed, so say the people who have performed the fires of Nachiketa, which are described by Nachiketa, and who have become thus enlightened. So, very clearly in several Upanishads, now one might say, oh, all the Upanishads talk about Vedanta, all the Upanishads talk about Advaita Vedanta. No, that's not true. There are more than 220 Upanishads. And a lot of the Upanishads, good deal of the Upanishads, which are quoted or drawn from in the Bhagavad Geeta, are actually Sankhya Upanishads. For example, Katha Upanishad is a Sankhya Upanishad. Shvetashvata Upanishad is a Sankhya Upanishad, and so on. So from these Sankhya Upanishads has been drawn many of the verses of the Bhagavad. And therefore we should take care not to be misled on the path of Advaita, Dvaita, etc., and understand what Sankhya is. So these Upanishads point out that there are two who are seated within your heart. One is the Paramatma, one is the Jivatma. And the Jivatma, when he listens to the Paramatma, when he surrenders to the Paramatma, then he finds peace. In many scriptures, even now, which are not from this subcontinent, you find talk of a small voice within your heart, which is the voice of God. And that small voice within the heart, which is the voice of God, needs skill in order to hear it carefully. You should understand that many people think they are listening to the voice in their heart, when in their heart there is lust, greed, envy, anger, illusion, madness. And while they have all these other voices shouting around, they can't hear that voice, which is the voice of God. There was a person in Austin, Texas, who climbed into a church bell tower and he used the rifle, sniper rifle, to kill 14 people. When he was caught, he said, "Oh, God in my heart told me I should kill them." That is not God's voice, that is the voice of madness. Similarly, there was a famous Raman Raghav in Bombay who walked the pavements, and when he found people sleeping there, he took a big rock and he bludgeoned them to death by using that stone to crush their skull. When he was caught, he said, "Oh, God told me to do that." That is not the voice of God, that is the voice of madness. Therefore, you have many voices in your heart: madness, lust, greed, anger, illusion, etc. So, in order to hear that voice of God, you need to silence these voices. And the best way to silence these voices is to remember God and forget yourself. In Kali Yuga, the prescribed method is by chanting the holy name. Harer Nama, Harer Nama eva kevalam, kalau nasteva, 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 eva gatiranyata. So you chant the holy name in Kali Yuga. In Kali Yuga, you have to chant the holy name. In Kali Yuga, you must chant the holy name. So when you chant the holy name, when you remember God as the object of sacrifice for whom you are performing work without seeking the fruit, these two activities bring about silence of the other voices. And when there is a silence of the other voices, you are able to get guidance from God how to move ahead on that towards their destiny. There are some who say, "Why do I need to listen to Paramatma in my heart? I listen to my Guru Maharaj. I listen to my Guru." So, first thing you should understand is that the Guru is an essential individual, but his job is not to guide you on how to dot every I and cross every T, not to make you dependent upon him or her. The purpose of the Guru is to teach you how to perform yajna. I want you to go to chapter 4. And in chapter 4, you will find the verse which says, Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. So Krishna explains that there are so many forms of sacrifice yajna. And all of these sacrifices approved by the Vedas lead you to knowledge. What knowledge? यज ज्ञात्वा न पुनर्मोहम एवं यस्यसि पांडव सर्वभूतानि अशेषाणि द्रक्ष्यस्यात्मनोतमयि. You know the truth and you know knowledge, and that knowledge means that you know that all things lie within Krishna, there in him and there is. And that knowledge is realized by the performance of yajna. And essentially yajna means idam Krishnaya, idam namama. This is for you, God, this is not meant for me. Whether you're performing havan and you're putting havan into the samagri and ghee into the fire, where you say, idam agnaya, idam namama, idam krishnaya, idam namama, so on and so forth. It's always not me. Idam namama, not for me. It is for you, Lord. So when you perform yajna, Similarly, when you chant the holy name without any material motivation, when you perform your work and your duty as designated by God, but you do it without expectation of any return, the fruit you don't desire. And hence, by remembering God and forgetting self, the voices in your heart, which include madness, lust, anger, greed, envy, etc., all of them become silence. So, Krishna points out that the role of the Guru is to teach you how to perform yajna, because it is through yajna that the Guru has attained this knowledge that all things lie within Krishna, they're in him and there he is. That is where his role stops. Of course, anybody can guide you, including your Guru, provided the Lord within your heart echoes what is being heard externally. So if you hear somebody saying something which actually is echoed by that Lord within your heart, then you know that that is the voice of God, whether it is the voice of Guru or it is the voice of, in many cases of various saints, you have seen the Paramatma speaking through the voice of a prostitute, between from the voice of a thug. So you can hear that voice of Paramatma in many places. But the real place you must hear for affirmation, for confirmation, for determining that that voice is valid, certified, authorized, credentialed, means that it comes from within your heart. So you need the Paramatma to guide you onward towards your destiny. Now I have spoken of the Upanishads, but the question is, many people say, where is Paramatma in Bhagavad Gita? Because too many people are misled by people speaking on the Bhagavad Gita, which is often mistranslated, misconstrued, and used merely to express some other philosophy, not that of the Bhagavad Gita. So in the Bhagavad Gita, we find that Krishna himself has pointed out. What has Krishna pointed out? Krishna points out very clearly that Arjuna asked Krishna in 13th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, and he asks him, how do I know Prakriti? How do I know the field, the knower of the field, land of knowledge and the end of knowledge? And the Lord says to Krishna, to Arjuna, this body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. Idam shariram kaunteya kshetram itya abhidhiyate etadyo veti tam prahu kshetrajna iti tadvidah. The body, O son of Kunti, is called the field, and one who knows the body is called the knower of the field. Then comes the kicker, the clincher, where Krishna says, I am also the knower of the field, but not just one field. I am the knower of all fields. This is the first hint we get that he is the Paramatma. Kshetrajam chapi mam vidhi. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. In all fields, I am there in all fields. Know me as the knower of all fields. Kshetrajam chapi mam vidhi. Sarva kshetreshu bharata. Kshetra gnyor jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. I am the knower of all fields. I am the knower in all bodies. To understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That, Krishna says, is my opinion. In the 15th chapter, text 15, Krishna then begins to state that he is giving knowledge to you, he is giving guidance to you, he is helping you to forget the things that you would like to forget. He says in text 15.15, सर्वस्य चाहम हृदि सन्विष्टो मतस्मृतिर ज्ञानम अपहनम च वेदश्च सर्वैरहम एव वेद्यो वेदांतकृत वेद विदेव चाहम. I am seated in everyone's heart. He means I am the Paramatma seated in everyone's heart. And from me, Krishna says, comes remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. By all the Vedas I am to be known. Indeed, I am the compiler of the Vedas. I am the knower of the Vedas. I am the ultimate goal, which is Vedanta. So Krishna clearly states that he is in your heart. And then when we come to the conclusion of the Bhagavad Gita, this is important because somebody told me that, hey, it's very easy for Krishna to talk to Arjun on the chariot. And it's very easy for Arjun to hear Krishna on the chariot, and thus he will do whatever he is told. But I don't have Krishna, I don't have a chariot, I have nobody to tell me what I should do. I don't trust any of these gurus. Every alternate day I get within the newspaper or on the internet some video clip of how they are misbehaving, how one is a murderer, one is this, one is that. So what do I do? So I told him, God is in your heart and he is guiding you onward towards your destiny. Just like Krishna is on the chariot of Arjuna, God, Krishna, is within your heart and he is guiding you onward towards your destiny. 18.61, I told him to read 18.61. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hridayadeshe Arjuna tishtati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantrarudani maya. Very clearly Krishna is telling Arjun, the Supreme Lord lives in the hearts of all human beings. And he directs the wanderings of the soul who are seated on a machine made of material energy. So indeed, within your heart is the Lord. Who is that voice within your heart? He is guiding you onward towards your destiny. He is taking you towards your destiny while you are seated in this machine, this Prakriti machine of material energy. And therefore, Krishna points out to Arjun, Tam eva sharanam gaccha sarva bhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapshashi shashvatam. So completely surrender unto this Lord who is seated in your heart. Listen to what he says and obey him perfectly. By his grace, you will attain perfect peace and the eternal abode. In fact, Krishna is the one who is guiding you from within your heart. And simply by surrendering to him, surrendering doesn't mean passive surrender. Surrendering means doing what he tells you. That is active surrender. So you listen to that Lord who is within your heart and you will attain peace, perfection, and supreme destination. So how do you hear him? As I said, you need to first of all silence the other voices within your heart. And how do you silence the other voices that are there within your heart? You silence the other voices that are there within your heart by the process of remembering God and forgetting yourself through the performance of yajna, the primary yajna of the Bhagavad Gita, is to perform your God-given duties in a spirit of sacrifice and devotion to God. Anashritah karma phalam karya karma karoti yah sannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnir na chakarya. One who performs his God-given duties in a spirit of sacrifice to the all-pervading Lord without expecting any fruit, he is the true yogi, he is the true sannyasi, not one who wears orange robe, shaves his head and does no work. So listen to that Lord within your heart and perform all your actions to him. Yattah pravrittir bhutanam yena sarvamidam tatam swakarmana abhyarchaya siddhim vindati manavah. Krishna points out, by performing your God-given duties in a spirit of sacrifice to the all-pervading Lord, you will attain perfection and the supreme destination. Perfection, peace, and the supreme destination. So these are all methods by which you silence that Lord within your heart. And as you reduce the sense of self, the voice of the Lord within your heart will direct you with greater clarity and volume. So this is very important to understand. Plus, Krishna says in the Bhagawad Geeta itself, Yagna Nam Japo Yagnosmi. During that time when you are not working, in the discretionary hours that you have, chant God's name, because Krishna says, I am of all the forms of sacrifice, I am the chanting of the holy name. So by performing your God-given duties as a sacrifice to God, by chanting God's name in your discretionary hours, you will attain peace, perfection, and the supreme destination. And you will indeed hear that voice of God within your heart. And by hearing that voice of God within your heart, you will get both knowledge, remembrance, and when necessary, forgetfulness. You will be the knower of all the Vedas, and you will be the knower of all Vedanta as well. And in fact, by doing this, you will be in intimate touch with Paramatma, who will guide you onward towards your destiny. So I will pause here and I will be happy to answer any questions that any of you may have, which you can put down in the comments. And I will like to answer them immediately if there are any. So indeed, we have a host, and that host will read out all relevant questions to me. So Paramatma is within your heart. He is driving you onward towards your destiny. Simply surrender to his instructions and follow them perfectly, and you will get peace, perfection, and the supreme destination. In order to hear his voice rather than the voice of lust, anger, greed, envy, illusion, madness, remember God and forget self through the performance of your duties as yajna, and in your discretionary time, chant the holy name, chant the holy name, chant. No questions? Then Hari Om, Jai Shri Krishna, Hare Krishna to all of you.